on that note of you talking about trying to change minds is, well, amen to all of that. But on the topic of changing minds, what I like to ask every one of my guests before I let them go is, what have you changed your mind about during the course of your life or recently, and what was it that made you think differently?
This is a difficult one because I'm usually pretty I'm pretty strong-willed, and it does take a lot to get me to change my mind on things. I'd say to be honest, I've started to change my mind on mental health provision and psychotherapy more generally. I mean, when I started training, I kind of viewed this as an unconditional good. I remember saying to some of my peers on my training course, I think everyone should have a therapist, and I genuinely meant that, because at the time I thought, there's no other space where you can just completely be yourself. You've got someone, the sole focus is on you. You can talk about your issues. It's confidential, all the rest of it. But now, what I've seen from some of the therapeutic practitioners and bodies that exist out there, what I've seen from the kind of tendency to medicalize young children from a young age and pathologize them and put labels on them, from how fragile I've seen we've created, the new generation, coddling them to the point that they lack any form of resiliency whatsoever, and kind of pushing victimhood narratives on them. I think mental health has played a part in this. I think some people have been harmed by mental health provision and psychotherapy. So I've changed my mind on that. I still fundamentally believe that when used correctly for the right people, mental health provision is a good thing, but I no longer think it's a universal good.
It's interesting you say that. I also have had a similar arc, I would say, and I think therapy can be useful to help people take action in their lives when they've come stuck on some things, and it helps them figure out the right route, and they don't often get that from their other personal relationships. And I'm sure in those moments when people are suffering, those nadiyas that you can get in life, that there's nothing quite like having someone in your corner. But one thing I think I have noticed through how prevalent therapy and the therapeutic worldview has become is that we have lots of people who seem to be lacking a little bit of resilience now, where they almost use those as a bit of a blocker from doing things, is one aspect. But there's another, as you talked about, this pathologizing, which makes people go out looking for things that might be wrong with them. And I don't necessarily know how healthy that is, to just constantly have in the background, to just have labels put on things so then you can finally make sense of something. And I know it can be a useful tool probably for some people to go, oh, well, that makes sense. But I have seen it in my personal life with others in my circle where that can become a blocker from them actually making any changes, or they become so overly analytical about something that they can't move forward because they're too busy tossing around everything in their mind. So, like anything, you think that when something becomes used more frequently in this particular instance, that must be a universal good, as you talked about. But actually, you can get too much of a good thing.
That's it. That's exactly how I feel.
Well, maybe it was for the best that you're expelled from that course after all. You could have been locked into a career you didn't want. But all jokes aside, you've clearly got a lot to offer the world. I mean, for someone to be able to stand up without thinking about the consequences personally, but only to be acting on the consequences that you could see of harming other people that you don't even know who they are at this point. They're just people in the world. And then to go through what you went through, and none of it for public honor or recognition. And you've definitely created a space. And whilst I'm sure things are difficult, and and probably not quite clicking into place just yet. I have no doubt that someone who is thinking about how to help the world and how to help people step by step, and doing it with bravery and courage, and engaging with people across every institution and sector, is you're having an impact on people, and you're doing it in a way that isn't self-serving. You're not doing it because you're going out to have a positive impact on the world. You're doing it because you believe that you are ultimately fighting against bad. And I think, and I hope, that you get what you deserve in this life, because these last 3 years, I wouldn't have wished it on people. And as much as you get a public apology, it still doesn't take away from the fact that you were put through the ringer, and that seems entirely unfair to me. So anyway, I just wanted to finish with a more power to you, James, and I wish you all the best.
No, thank you very much, John. I mean, those very kind words, and you know, they mean a lot. And you know, I've seen a lot of bad things over the last few years, but I've also seen a lot of generosity and kindness and warmth. You know, and I've in some ways I've seen the best of people as well through all of this. And if I can turn a bad situation into something good, then so much the better. I mean, you know, as far as I'm concerned, you know, we're put on this earth. You know, we could all go around trying to earn as much money as possible and all the rest of it. But I think for me personally, if I can spend my time doing something that has some sort of beneficial impact, particularly on something like child well-being, for which I think there is nothing more important than that, then as far as I'm concerned, that will be a life well lived. So yes, but thank you for the kind words.